This is the Crosszone CZ8a and it is the enhanced version. So what they did is that they retuned the original Crosszone CZ8a and they made this enhanced version which has a much better bass reproduction which should balance the entire sound better. This one is priced at $1,700 US. As far as I'm aware, there is no price change between the enhanced version and the original version. It has the same package as the original version, but there have been some subtle changes that should have a resounding impact in how it sounds like. Physically, it is pretty much the same headphone, I couldn't tell them apart. You can't even know if this is the enhanced version without having the box because there is no enhanced version written anywhere on the headphone. But from what I understand, the enhanced version is set to replace the original version. They seem to have improved the swivel mechanism a bit, it seems to be a bit tighter, which is good because the original was a bit too light. We have the same level of headphone ear cup adjustment. We have the same cable, which is the basic cable, but we know that there are some high-end cables available by Crosszone, and they will choke you a bit if you place them at their tightest levels on your neck, but they aren't supposed to be worn. If you can see at the tightest level, it is quite tight on my head, and you have to use a much larger level for them to fit my head. And now they sit more comfortably around my neck as well. So they should be able to fit most heads, shapes and sizes, just like the original. The construction is still very solid, just like the original. It feels very good in hand. It has a nice ear cup. It has a golden writing, which seems to be better at resisting scratches. The ear cup has no scratches, even though the original used to have a few scratches. The ear cups are slightly different from what I could tell. They are a bit deeper and a bit softer, and there have been a lot of changes internally. They still seem to isolate quite well from the outside noise. There seems to be a bit more ventilation on the outer part of the headphone, and the headphones are generally very ergonomic. They look really nice and they work as nice. Now, this is not a very hard to drive headphone, but it will appreciate if you have a source that matches its signature well. They now sound incredibly bassy. The original was quite bassy, but the new version is much bassier. It is very smooth in the treble. It doesn't have a sparkly or a very bright treble. It has a smooth, relaxed treble, a laid-back treble, but it has outstanding definition, clarity, resolution, and detail. They will impress you with the soundstage they have, and just like the HiFiMan Audivina, they have a really large and really wide soundstage. In fact, I think they are priced very closely to HiFiMan Audivina, which I grabbed just for fun, but there is a difference in the kind of drivers they use and in the philosophy they use to construct their headphones. This is the Audivina next to the CZ-8a. The Audivina has a larger ear cup. It is slightly heavier actually in person, but the ear cups are quite a bit larger and they feel more relaxed on my head, although it looks a bit more like construction worker headphones than the Crosszone CZ8a. CZ8a looks smoother and sleeker when being worn. They look more normal, like a pair of headphones. So the main difference is that Crosszone CZ8a uses 3 drivers inside to create their sound, and those drivers are, some of them arranged frontally, some of them are angled, so that you get the final sound. Those drivers are carefully selected and they create a wide holographic soundstage. They create one of the widest, most holographic sound stages out there. They isolate you quite well from the outside noise. They have between 20 and 25 decibels of passive noise isolation, which means that I can barely hear myself while talking. There are many IEMs that don't have this degree of passive noise isolation. Quite excellent work from Crosszone. On the other hand, HiFiMan Audivina has very little passive noise isolation, and HiFiMan Audivina relies on the shape and inner design of the ear cup to create the soundstage. They have it designed like an entire concert hall. They have a very complex design of the ear cup, while Crosszone has a complex design of the drivers to create that soundstage, and the way they are angled, the way they create the sound will create that soundstage. 2 very different principles, and it will be very interesting to compare them in writing. Crosszone CZ8a is a bit tighter on the head and it will stay a bit tighter, and for them I actually still would recommend something that has an EQ that you can use, because right now they sound bassy, they sound powerful, and they sound punchy. They have an incredibly deep, lush and powerful bass with 0 distortion. I love that about them. While Audivina has much less bass compared to the CZ8a, but the mid-range of the CZ8a isn't quite as forward, and it isn't nasal or plasticky sounding anymore like some people have noted about the CZ8a original. The enhanced version is much better, while the Audivina also has a somewhat odd, slightly hollow sounding mid-range compared to the CZ8a. The CZ8a sounds full, extremely thick and deep. It sounds very, very powerful, and it is slightly better at recreating male voices than female voices, and it is better at playing guitars than it is at playing violins. This means that the upper mid-range and lower treble are slightly recessed, which creates the feeling of thickness, lushness, but also can take away some of the emotion they have. This means that an EQ that can increase the treble will likely increase the pleasure that you can get from the CZ8a. The simplest one I can recommend being FIO Q15. It is an excellent DACAM that I have used for Crosszone CZ8a, and I do have an excellent experience with them playing together. With the Crosszone CZ8, you don't even know which is the main driver. What driver creates the bass, which driver creates the mid-range, and which driver creates the treble. And are they supposed to each create a frequency, or are they all wideband and they just play together internally so that they create the soundstage? The paperwork doesn't clearly explain how this works, and I think that is for the better. It is better to listen to them and to create an opinion on how they sound, rather than just think about how they will sound before listening to them. Our confirmation bias tends to be a strong effect, and I would recommend trying them on if you can. That may be slightly difficult because Crosszone CZ8a is mainly made for a Japanese market, which means that in the States and just in Europe in general, you have to either import them from Japan or talk with some of the international distributors like Musica Audio, which is one of their main distributors globally. With a company that decided to remake their headphones, usually there are a lot of questions like why? What are the changes and why did they make those changes? I think that they changed the entire sound of the headphone. They changed the tuning entirely. They increased the bass, they pulled the mid-range slightly backwards, they increased the naturalness of the mid-range, they increased the presence and the airiness of the treble without making it harsher or more metallic sounding. All in all, they created a headphone that was great in the CZ8a, and in the enhanced version they made it absolutely beautiful. They really made it be the headphone that you want to have in your house and on your ears. Listening to the Crosszone CZ8a, you will hear sonic cues that can come from very far apart. They have extreme precision when it comes to the soundstage. While they have this huge soundstage, they also have extreme positioning. You'll hear every instrument and every sound coming from a very specific location. They are good at that. They're also excellent at creating instrument separation and at creating the feeling that you are there with the music. They don't take away the forwardness and the edginess of a metal concert, but they can allow you to experience the width and the depth of a concert hall in classical music. It is quite interesting how a single headphone can do so many styles so well. They don't just reproduce music, they make it sound wider usually, so even more intimate music can sound a bit wider than it is supposed to, but that ends up being very fun. That ends up sounding very holographic, quite pleasing, and at the end of the day, we're here because we love music, so something that makes music sound more pleasing and more enjoyable is a good change. There is an enhanced version for the Crosszone CZ10 as well, but there is no enhanced version for the Crosszone CZ1 as far as I know. That one was considered to be perfect by the listeners. It is a perfect headphone for classical music, and the same could be said about the Hypeman Audivina. Both of them are excellent headphones. Around this price point, so around $2,000, most headphones will be quite great. The company is spending a lot in research and development. They are using very good drivers, they are using solid constructions, and the general experience is good. The problem is that you have to listen to find the one that you like the most. It's not about finding a headphone that is purely perfect, it's about finding a headphone that is perfect for you. You will know what sounds best to you, and I do recommend testing and trying to get the Crosszone CZ8a. I actually made a blunder. There seems to be an enhanced sticker on the CZ8a on the inner part of the right ear cup. You will know whether you have the enhanced version or not. I will try to have some photos on Audiophile Heaven to highlight that, and I will try to catch that in the B-rolls if I am able to. It is really tiny, but it is there and it doesn't seem to be possible to peel it off, so the company wants you to know whether you have the enhanced version or the baseline version. Since this isn't so hard to drive, the pairing will be better left to the written part of the review, and I also do more comparisons in the full written review. Please check that out. Please check out my other videos. Please subscribe to Audiophile Heaven and like this video if you found it enjoyable. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see each other really soon. Bye!